The fluorescent lights of the Walmart parking lot flickered above us as I adjusted the blanket over Miles. My 3-year-old son was finally asleep in the back seat, his little chest rising and falling peacefully. He didn't understand why we'd been sleeping in my Honda Civic for the past 4 nights. I told him we were camping, and somehow, that innocent lie made everything worse. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in February. The Atlanta cold seeped through the car windows, and I pulled my own thin jacket tighter. I'd parked in the far corner, away from the entrance, hoping no one would notice us. Hoping no one would call the cops. Hoping no one would ask questions I didn't know how to answer. My phone battery was at 4%. I'd been rationing it all day, only checking messages from the school where I taught 3rd grade. Tomorrow was Wednesday. I had to be at work by 7:30 a.m. That meant waking Miles at 6, changing him in a gas station bathroom, and dropping him at daycare with a smile like everything was normal. Everything was not normal. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. I couldn't cry. Not now. Miles might wake up. That's when I saw the headlights. A silver Camry pulled into the spot directly in front of mine, blocking me in. My heart hammered. Security? Police? I reached for the door lock, ready to explain, ready to beg them not to report me to CPS. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a heavy winter coat. He walked toward my car with purpose, and I froze. Then he knocked on my window. Jennifer. I knew that voice. I'd know it anywhere. Dad? I unlocked the door, and my father's face appeared in the opening, his expression shifting from confusion to shock to something that looked like barely controlled fury. What are you doing here? His voice was low, careful not to wake Miles. Why are you sleeping in your car? I couldn't speak. The words lodged in my throat like broken glass. Jennifer. He crouched down to my level. Where's your house? That's when I started crying. Not the quiet tears I'd been holding back for days, but the kind of sobbing that comes from a place so deep you didn't know it existed. My father reached in and took my hand. It's okay, he said. Talk to me. What happened? Through broken sentences and gasping breaths, I told him everything. 3 months ago, Marcus, my husband of 5 years, came home with papers. He said it was something routine, insurance documents that needed my signature. I was grading papers. Miles was having a tantrum, and I was exhausted. I signed without reading. I trusted him. He was my husband. 2 weeks ago, I found out the truth. Those weren't insurance papers. They were mortgage refinancing documents. Marcus and his mother, Diane, had remortgaged my house. The house I'd inherited from my grandmother. The house that was in my name only. They'd forged additional documents, created fake pay stubs in my name, and taken out $200,000 against the property. When I confronted Marcus, he laughed. Actually laughed. What are you going to do about it? He'd said. Call the police? Try it. My mother has a friend who's a family court judge. We'll prove you're an unfit mother. You'll lose Miles. Is that what you want? Diane had smiled at me from the couch, sipping her wine. Be smart, Jennifer. Stay quiet, and you can still see your son. Make trouble, and we'll make sure you never see him again. I told my father how they'd given me 3 days to think about it. How Marcus had changed all the locks on the house while I was at work. How, when I came home, my clothes and Miles's things were in garbage bags on the lawn. How I'd been too terrified to go to the police because I couldn't risk losing my son. My father listened to everything. His jaw was tight, his eyes dark, but his hand never left mine. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Jennifer, look at me. I met his eyes. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I nodded. You and Miles are coming with me right now. We're going to my house. You're going to sleep in a real bed. And tomorrow morning, we're going to fix this. Dad, you don't understand. They'll take Miles. Diane knows people. She's threatened. I know exactly what she's threatened. My father's voice was calm, the same calm he'd used when I was a child and scared of thunderstorms. And I know exactly how to handle this. But I need you to trust me and do exactly what I say. Can you do that? Something in his tone made me pause. My father had been a real estate lawyer for 30 years before he retired. He'd specialized in property fraud cases. He'd worked with the FBI on mortgage scam investigations. If anyone could help me, it was him. Okay, I whispered. Good. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to follow me to my house. You're not going to call anyone or text anyone. Tomorrow morning, you're going to call in sick to work, and we're going to start gathering evidence. Do you understand? But what about Marcus? What about— Don't worry, my father said, and something in his voice reminded me of steel covered in velvet. I've dealt with men like your husband before. By the time I'm done, he and his mother are going to wish they'd never met our family. We drove to my father's house in silence, Miles still asleep. Dad had a guest room ready within minutes, fresh sheets, a nightlight for Miles, and a cup of tea for me. Get some sleep, he said. We have a lot of work to do tomorrow. That night, I slept in a real bed for the first time in days, and despite everything, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. The next morning, my father woke me at 7 a.m. with breakfast and a legal pad covered in notes. Phase 1, he said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. Evidence gathering. I need you to tell me everything. Every document Marcus had you sign, every conversation with Diane, every detail you can remember about your house, your mortgage, your finances. For the next 2 hours, I talked. Dad took notes, asked questions, and occasionally made phone calls to people he called old colleagues. I heard terms like forensic accounting, title fraud, and federal investigation. Here's what we know, Dad finally said. Marcus and Diane committed mortgage fraud. That's a federal crime. They forged your signature, which is identity theft. They used fake documents, which is wire fraud. And they threatened you to cover it up, which is extortion. Any one of these could send them to prison. All of them together? We're looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. But how do we prove it? I asked. I signed those papers. They have my signature. We're going to prove you were deceived. And we're going to prove they've done this before. Before? My father leaned back in his chair. Jennifer, people who commit mortgage fraud don't usually stop at one victim. While you were sleeping, I made some calls. I have a friend who still works in the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. I gave him Marcus and Diane's names. He's running background checks right now. My phone buzzed. It was Marcus. Where are you? You need to come sign more papers. Dad read the message over my shoulder. Don't respond yet. We're going to use his eagerness against him. Over the next 3 days, my father orchestrated what he called Phase 2, the trap. First, he hired a private investigator named David Chen. David was ex-FBI, specialized in financial crimes, and within 48 hours, he'd uncovered something stunning. Marcus and Diane had done this before. 3 times. They'd targeted recently divorced women, married them quickly, convinced them to refinance their homes, and then disappeared with the money. 2 of the women had lost their houses entirely. 1 had committed suicide. This isn't just fraud, David told us. This is a pattern, a scheme, and that makes it a whole different ballgame. Second, Dad contacted every one of Marcus's previous victims. With their testimonies and documentation, we had proof of a systematic operation. Third, and this was the brilliant part, Dad created a trap. He had me text Marcus back. I'm sorry I left. I've been thinking. You're right. I should just cooperate. Can we meet to talk? Marcus responded immediately. Yes. Come to the house tomorrow. We need to finalize some papers. Dad smiled when he read that. He's greedy. Good. Greed makes people careless. That night, Dad explained Phase 3. Tomorrow, you're going to that house. But you're not going alone. David will be monitoring from a van outside. You'll be wearing a recording device. We need Marcus and Diane to say, on tape, what they did. We need them to admit to the fraud, to the threats, to everything. They won't just admit it, I said. They will if they think they've won. If they think you're beaten, they'll brag. Diane especially. David's researched her psychology profile. She's a narcissist. She can't help herself. What if something goes wrong? My father's expression softened. I'll be right outside. The moment I think you're in danger, we're coming in. But Jennifer, I need you to be strong for just 1 more day. Can you do that? I thought about Miles, playing with toys in the guest room. I thought about my grandmother's house, the house where I'd planned to raise my son, the house that had been stolen from me. Yes, I said, I can do that. The next day, I drove to my house, my own house, with a recording device hidden under my shirt. My father and David were parked 2 blocks away, monitoring everything through an earpiece I wore. Marcus answered the door with a smile. "Jennifer, good to see you being reasonable." Diane was in the living room, papers spread across my coffee table. "Sit down," she said. It wasn't a request. I sat. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it. "These are the final papers," Marcus said, sliding a stack across to me. "You sign these, and we're done. You can even visit Miles once a week. Supervised, of course." "Supervised?" I kept my voice weak, defeated. "Well, we can't have you filling his head with lies about his father," Diane said, examining her nails. "Besides, after we sell this house and move to Florida, it'll be easier if Miles just forgets about you gradually." My blood went cold. "Sell the house?" "Oh, honey," Diane laughed. "You really are stupid, aren't you? We've already got a buyer lined up. $450,000. This dump will sell in 2 weeks, and we'll be gone. You'll never find us." "But this is my house," I whispered. "Not anymore," Marcus said. "You signed it over, remember? It's amazing what people will sign when they're distracted. You were so busy grading papers, so tired from your little teaching job, you didn't even read what you were signing." "That's fraud," I said quietly. "Prove it," Diane sneered. "Go ahead. Call the police. We'll tell them you're an alcoholic. We'll tell them you neglect Miles. I have a friend who's a family court judge. She owes me favors. By the time we're done, you'll be lucky if you get a Christmas card." "And if I don't sign?" I asked. "Then we file for custody tomorrow." "And you'll lose." Marcus leaned forward. "Jennifer, don't be stupid. This is your best option. Sign the papers, walk away, and maybe you'll get to be a weekend grandmother someday when Miles is grown." In my ear, I heard my father's voice through the hidden earpiece. "That's enough. We have everything. Get out now." I stood up. "No." "Excuse me?" Diane's eyes narrowed. I said no. "I'm not signing anything, and you're both going to prison." Marcus laughed. "Really? You and what evidence?" The front door burst open. My father walked in, followed by David and 2 FBI agents in tactical vests. "That evidence," Dad said. The color drained from Marcus's face. Diane actually dropped her wine glass. "What is this?" Marcus stammered. "FBI," one of the agents said, holding up his badge. "Marcus Williams and Diane Williams, you're under arrest for mortgage fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, and extortion." "You can't do this," Diane shrieked. "I know people. I'll call—" "Your friend, Judge Morrison?" Dad said calmly. "She's very interested to know you've been using her name to threaten people. She's actually the one who fast-tracked the warrant for your arrest." As the agents read them their rights and put them in handcuffs, David played back the recording. Marcus and Diane's voices filled the room. Every threat, every admission, every detail of their scheme crystal clear. "You set me up," Marcus said, staring at me in disbelief. "No," my father said, stepping between us. "You set yourself up the moment you decided to steal from my daughter. I just gave you the rope." They were taken away in separate cars. As the red and blue lights faded down the street, I stood in the doorway of my house, and started shaking. Dad put his arm around me. "It's over." "Is it really?" "The FBI has everything. They found $340,000 in Marcus and Diane's account, including money from his previous victims. You'll get your house back, full custody of Miles, and they're looking at 10 to 15 years in federal prison." "What about the judge she mentioned?" "There was no judge. Judge Morrison is a real person, but she'd never even met Diane. It was a bluff, and it worked because you were scared. But I knew Diane's type. I've seen 100 scammers like her. They always claim to have powerful friends. They never do." I turned to look at him. "How did you know what to do?" My father smiled, tired but satisfied. "Jennifer, I spent 30 years prosecuting real estate fraud. I've worked with the FBI on dozens of cases like this. I knew exactly what we needed: evidence, testimony, and their own words condemning them. People like Marcus and Diane, they're not smart. They're just predators who target vulnerable people. But the moment someone fights back with the right knowledge, they fall apart. Over the next 3 months, everything unfolded exactly as Dad predicted. Marcus and Diane pled guilty to avoid trial. The other victims came forward, and additional charges were added. In the end, Marcus got 12 years, Diane got 14. My house was returned to me, the fraudulent mortgage was erased, and I got full custody of Miles. Marcus's parental rights were terminated. He would never see his son again. But more than that, Dad helped me understand something crucial. He sat me down one evening, months after everything was over, and said, "Jennifer, I need you to remember something. What happened to you wasn't your fault. You trusted your husband. That's not weakness. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But I also need you to learn from this." Learn what? Never, ever sign anything without reading it. Never let someone pressure you when you're tired or distracted. And most importantly, never be too afraid to ask for help from people who love you. He took my hand. "You were so scared of losing Miles that you were willing to lose everything else. But the moment you trusted me, the moment you let me help, we won. Remember that. You're stronger than you think, but you're even stronger when you're not alone." I cried then. Not tears of fear or pain, but relief. Today, Miles is 6 years old. He's thriving in first grade, and he has no memory of those terrible days. My father moved into my guest room, and we've become a team. He helps with Miles, I help him with his garden, and we have dinner together every night. The house, my grandmother's house, is truly mine again. I refinanced it properly, in my own name, with my own lawyer present. The walls have been repainted, the locks have been changed, and every night when I put Miles to bed, I tell him the same thing my father told me. You are loved, you are safe, and you never have to face anything alone. Sometimes I think about Marcus and Diane in their separate federal prisons. I wonder if they understand what they lost, not just freedom, but the chance to be part of something real. But mostly, I don't think about them at all. Instead, I think about my father's words that night in the parking lot. "Don't worry, I've got this." He did have it. And he taught me that the most powerful weapon against people who want to control you through fear isn't anger or revenge. It's knowledge. It's preparation. It's having people in your corner who know how the system works and how to make it work for you. I teach my third graders now with a different perspective. When I see a student struggling, scared to ask for help, I remember my own fear. And I tell them what my father taught me. There's no problem so big that you can't solve it with the right help, but you have to be brave enough to ask. My father saved me, yes. But more importantly, he taught me to save myself. He showed me that being vulnerable enough to ask for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And now, when Miles asks me about the photos of his father that don't exist in our house, I tell him a simple truth. Some people aren't meant to be in our lives. But the people who are, the people who truly love us, they'll move heaven and earth to keep us safe. Just like my father did for me. That's the story I want to share with you today. Not just about how I almost lost everything, but about how I learned that family, real family, means never having to face your nightmares alone. If my story touched your heart, if you've ever felt trapped or scared or helpless, I want you to know, there is always a way out. There is always someone who can help. You just have to be brave enough to reach out. And if you're a parent watching this, remember, your children need to know that no matter how old they get, no matter what mistakes they make, no matter how scary things become, they can always come home to you. That's what my father gave me. Not just my house back, not just my son, but the knowledge that I was never alone. And that, more than anything, is what saved me.